I'm flying a tire shop. Now I'll tell you in a few minutes where the stirring in your pants comes from when watching this video. Let's first start with the shoals that catch your eye. Default flat grass. The room is very clearly visible, despite the fact that no light gets there. An object hanging in the air. A corpse that casts no shadows. Stones without textures. A very bright area where the light does not get. In the dark, there are generally terrible textures. Light box surrounded by puddles. Absence of any shadows. And so on. And you want to ask, old man, how, with all this list, the poor devils thought that these were real footages? Explaining, brother. To begin with, your camera is not located at eye level as usual, but on your chest. This is called bodycam. I made a fuss and found out that the movement is actually not new. On many sites, this has a separate section, but it's not enough just to put a camera on the body. We need more jokes that the real analog has. Firstly, an increased viewing angle that covers more space. This is important for such a camera, so that you can see that the boil is standing around. Secondly, the distortion from the lens, which is usually given by such lenses, because of which straight lines begin to bend. Such a stray should be done on purpose, since this is generally purely a feature of lenses. If you increase the viewing angle in the game, then the maximum that you will see is the stretching of the image. If you increase the angle in life, then mine is to them where you punched such a potion. So the distortion has to be added on top of that. Plus, the kid scattered the features in the corners, like it's Fishey. I have not seen this in the photos, but if during a shootout he fucks a kickflip, then the bazaar is 0. However, if you think and I throw all this stuff, you will become a Trump Volt and you will be taken by Ubisoft, then I'm sorry. Ibisit is taken without experience. In general, there is a poor guy on the internet who tried to do the same. And considering that his camera seems to be located below the head and also has a distortion from the lens on the sides, it lacks sound animation work. Despite the context of a manual or body camera, it seems to float in space with some minimal shaking. It is too stable and absolutely does not transmit any body movements, except for lifting on the steps. It's like an ordinary first-person camera in a game, while our passenger's camera is held either by a man thrown in, or it is really attached to clothes. And in such a camera, you can feel the movement from every turn, tilt and step. And the more intense it is, the more it shakes. But the most important thing is that all these movements are not just there, but they are made naturally, sharp and clear. And this is one of the most important aspects, because of which there is a feeling that this is a real shooting. Because we are not used to seeing such flickering in games. It is inherent in just the same body cameras. And that's why this Vitos does not take out for such a feeling. Here, the truth is, in addition to everything else, the viewing angle is very narrow. For some reason chromatic operations have grown, and from above all the ham has been washed up and smeared with mud on the sides, so that you fuck how they can. So the boys still need to crack with the camera. Unlike our dude. This type is like a pawn shop, buys everything you need. He realized another important detail that such cameras suffer from. Weak light range and auto exposure. I talked about it in the last analysis on Ragnarok. This is generally their thing. Constant overlights in the windows if you are indoors and black shadows if the camera is focused on something bright. And all this in total forms a context for which you are perfectly groping. Shooting with a chest action camera. But looking at real footages, you can pick out another joke: the quality of the picture. Zako's under such a camera allows you to hide the shortcomings that you attribute to poor quality shooting. The kid did everything smoothly in a stupid way not to ruin the picture, piled a powerful motion blur. And almost most of the video is recorded here, where not to poke it in almost every frame somewhere something will be blurred. In a cop with a rapidly changing picture, because of which you will not normally see anything without a freeze frame, it seems to you that there are some details everywhere. Just like in the photos taken in the real world, where detailed questions do not arise. That is, Zako's for amateur shooting is the trump card of the entire trailer. If you think I'm heaven, then look at a couple of frames from the DVR. And the fuck out of the fact that it got mixed up among them again. Didn't you notice? That's it. Subscribe if you also promoted from this alignment. And with this stray, it looks in kind.
Like alive, but the bitch is not alive.
If compared with other DVRs. And the joke here is not only that the camera was placed in the same place, the FPS was stolen and the color was changed to green. By themselves, these 3 steps do not give such a feeling. This is important, but only part of the desired effect. Another joke is that in addition to the bazaar, the boys also filter the image using complex algorithms that process all the information on the fly, such as the depth of the frame, lighting, where what object is, and so on. And now, together with the green filter, this already gives a cheerful picture, because everything does not work so brightly without it. But it looks good in comparison with the old registrars, because if you take the new ones, where you can see a lot of details, then it doesn't take out any more with any body kits. Unlike the record. But even here everything is not so simple. You're probably already sitting and thinking, how did you fuck up? What are you afraid of, uncle? There are so many details here. The guys made a fuss worse than the chatter of the studio, brought ultra-realistic locations. Old, I agree more than completely, the bazaar is 0, but abandoned premises and especially factories are cheats. The fact is that if there was no cotton at your enterprise, then they have nothing special to catch. Lydia Apana works out her lavas and cleans up properly. Because of what everything will be clean everywhere that in the laboratory. But if an unscheduled and negative construction happens, then its fall on the first will cover the slab and there will be no one to clean up. And the cunning kid was fumbling for it. He had the opportunity to throw in countless details for free, which do not need to be invented in ordinary rooms, on the streets of the city and so on. If this wall is an abandoned factory, then it can be destroyed completely or partially. There may be holes with protruding rebar and pieces of concrete, bricks, cement and so on. And that you can go a little bit on top of this, I won't even say. From smudges to graffiti and circassians. And now I will try to squeeze out such a number of details from an ordinary wall in a room. With the floor, the movements are even richer. In addition to uneven broken tiles, there may be puddles and the most important trump card is garbage. Not this one. Broken furniture of collapsed construction, Lydia Palana under them, construction debris and so on. And all this deluga for cheap bussets the picture with large small details. In our case, small debris can turn into a hodgepodge of pixels, in which the main thing is that there is some relief. Stones without textures are not even particularly striking, because they can supposedly be in the dust and at least someone will say something. No one will think where a particular brick came from and how it was necessary to be afraid that it would be dumped. However, this does not mean that it is all done at a bad level or on the off. Despite the fact that the concept of the location is quite simple, this guy fussed and managed to put everything together quite organically. Where it is possible to pass there is less garbage, where it is not necessary to walk, more. Where there's a hole in the ceiling, there's a mountain of garbage under it, like it's collapsed material from the ceiling. Where there is a hole in the wall next to it lies a pile as if it were the remains of it. You looked, he even threw shit into the sink to somehow diversify this whole movement. And somewhere I planted flowers to please the female audience. Stupidly Casanova. But here the question arises, and what kind of client was drawn that he dragged the whole tub of salt and threw a triple and studios by the cheek? Is this some kind of another high-attack Kamizaki? But almost. There is a little trick here. The man ran into the internet and stupidly started vacuuming and Seth didn't seem to be himself. Graffiti pulled off this quixel, from there most likely picked up a scan of garbage, shader, dirt and cracks, along with cans and other small samples. The truck stole the matrix from the demo, and took a couple of bags from Anril's store, racks with cinder blocks, and so on. And for the first trailer that he showed some time ago, I took it without any locks at all, completely stole the entire location without alteration. Look for yourself. So to say that some kind of stroke solo filed the game better than a tripela from the studio is not quite beautiful. But then there may be unrest, they say, the mammoth mice salad, we were divorced again. Don't piss, don't piss. But if I were you, I would give these cards to me for safekeeping. So that's it. In fact, the young man did everything in beauty and did not waste time creating all the locations from scratch, but used ready-made materials. Where they came from does not matter to the player. And so he can pay more attention to everything else. Despite the fact that he has already given out a powerful camera, which really has questions, but it's fine. And animations that look quite realistic to themselves, including because of this very camera. There are several reloading variations and very limited hand movement. They behave quite realistically, and let's say at the moment of approaching close to the object, you can see the reaction, just like in the fourth rezik. By the way, this will be my next analysis, signing everything so as not to get stuck. So if you want something to simplify the development process, then why not? Moreover, he has something to work on. Even with the presence of Lumen, there are a lot of jams here. Firstly, there are a lot of places in which there are no shadows stupidly. What the kid was doing and why it happened is difficult to say now. But thank God, at least I didn't see this or that texture as in Ranarek. Don't forget to take a look, there's Gabila in general. Razrabi so on Baducker depriving still bald sit. Plus, the kid's textures are also not so smooth. Sometimes they look right outright at God. But I hope that he distributes all the heads and drags like a father. Over this time, he settles on the channel and jumps up to me on Twitch. I'm there periodically explaining for the Graphin and just now I'm going through a Reddit for analysis. All come on, brother, a passing Vita Toby in the ass.